Right, so let's crack on. Welcome everybody to this Nomidio webinar where we're going to be talking about passwordless biometric authentication and the ease and speed with which that can be set up. Just a quick note on what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to talk a little bit about Nomidio and identity and how that kind of all ties together and what we do. And then we're going to get straight into the meat of showing you a demonstration of deploying a full biometric identity service in 20 minutes, which is a little bit of an ambitious live demo to aim for, but hopefully we should achieve that. So without further ado, let's talk about Nomidio and identity. Really what Nomidio focus on is digital identity, particularly using biometrics as an authentication means. And I suppose the scope of what we're particularly interested in here is the creation or onboarding, if you like, of people into having a digital identity and then being able to use that digital identity to prove who they are and to be authenticated against their identity in different ways. And that at the moment, that might traditionally be your digital identity might be or probably is a username and a password used to authenticate you, which is a rather vulnerable, archaic, insecure, and terrible user experience in terms of how you portray yourself. I did a quick count just before we started in my LastPass vault. I use LastPass to manage the passwords because I can't remember them all. I have 284 digital identities currently that I use, which is an insane place to be. There's no way I can remember all of those, obviously. And what's very unsatisfactory about that, really, from my perspective, is it's pretty vulnerable to being hacked, insecure, and a pretty cumbersome process of trying to remember passwords. And what we're really talking about with Nomidio here is having a biometric authentication on a single digital identity that allows you to be authenticated across different channels, whether that be calling up a contact center business or business in their contact center to deal with them, or dealing with chat bots or on a chat channel, logging into websites, or in a corporate environment, logging into corporate applications, corporate services, single sign-on, and so on. The principle being that we aim to have a single digital identity for me as a person that can be used in all those circumstances. It's a bit like having a real-world passport, I suppose. I often sort of think that I have a passport. It's my passport. And when I go to a different country, I don't expect that country to issue me with a passport that I use to be able to enter that country. I bring my passport with me, and they use that to authenticate me. And we're sort of aiming at the same space to achieve that. So, as Nomidio, we have a couple of products, or in fact services that deliver in that space, all based around the Nomidio Identity Cloud, where we provide Nomidio IDs, and those are Nomidio IDaaS, which is primarily aimed at the voice and contact center channels, identifying people when they call up a business, and Nomidio OpenID, which is all about logins, web-based identification, whether that be in corporate or on the internet. So that's what we do as a business. What we're going to be talking about today is the Nomidio OpenID product, and using that to identify yourself logging into a cloud service. So the context of all of that that makes Nomidio slightly sort of different, I suppose, from other identity services. Really, that we're focused on biometric authentication. So this is 100% about using biometrics to authenticate an individual rather than passwords and other knowledge-based types of questions. Nomidio is also delivered as a service, so it's important to understand that there is no product to buy, no software to download. We are a service that is consumed from the cloud entirely, so hence no implementation is required on premise to create the functions. The service is multi-factor by design. There's obviously a lot of talk and move towards MFA, multi-factor authentication, to try and bolster the insecurity of username passwords. And Nomidio itself is by design is multi-factor, both in the fact that we use multiple biometric factors. We use both voice and face, but we also, as part of the process, also use security keys and step up to additional factors as required, whether that be email or one-time passwords or additional PIN codes by authentication apps on specific single step-up occasions if necessary. It's all built into the platform. One of the things that we're really keen on is that the identity provision is capable of coping with multiple channels. So rather than having some method of identifying me when I phone up a business or if I want to use a chat channel, different from when I log in on a website, we have multiple channels that use the same identity across all of those channels. So today I'm going to be showing you the sort of the corporate channel, if you like, where we're going to be talking about logging into, in this case, Zendesk as a way of authenticating. As I said, we're looking at having a single ID. So I, as a person, will have a single ID. I'll register once and use that in different ways many times, rather than having to register every time I want to interact with a different business. And from a user experience perspective, which is pretty important in terms of ease of use for adoption, there's no app to download in order to facilitate the biometric authentication with an individual. It's all delivered via browser, so you're not tied to a particular app. You're not tied to a particular device. It's not on your mobile and tied to be on your mobile only. And the vulnerabilities that brings if you lose or don't have your phone with you, being unable to authenticate yourself. So that's another key feature that we aim for with Nomidio. So what we're going to be talking about today is I'm going to be showing you as integrating with Zendesk. Zendesk, and I'm sure many of you know, in their own words, champions of customer service, fantastic platform for managing all your interactions, your customer experiences, ticket management, support, and many, many other things. Fantastic platform, very open, and we're going to be integrating with Zendesk to use to show a login. So we'll be logging into Zendesk using biometric authentication. So just to show you what that's going to look like, I'm going to show you the end game here. I've got a video of me logging in this morning, or in fact this afternoon, I think. So this is where we're going to end up, of me logging into Zendesk, just so you can see where we're going to end up. This is going to go through the biometric process. So I go to Zendesk, and when I want to log in, I'm automatically redirected to follow the Nomidio identity process, where I'm taken to take a picture of my face, a recording of my face, in fact. Which goes through, and then I give a voice sample. I use my voice to prove my identity. Quietly in the background, which is then authenticated and then logs me into Zendesk. You'll see I'm logged in as Philip Black. So that's where we're going to end up, which is a pretty good place to be, really, in terms of that's a full biometric authentication service, securing your login to Zendesk, where you don't have to remember a username, you don't have to remember a password. It's multi-factor by design and extremely easy to deliver. Now, one thing I would say, that video is perhaps a little bit shaky on viewing, and perhaps a bit pixelated, primarily because I'm running all of this from a screen share on my laptop. So you'll have to excuse it if it's a little bit hesitant. When it's done in real life, it's a smooth and quick service. So what is this going to look like? Let's get to what we're going to do. This is a basic schematic of how the logging into a service using an identity provider like Nomidio works. And this is what we're going to be doing today. So you can see the process here. Although it's 7 steps, it's pretty simple. What happens is the user is on their browser and they want to go and log into, in this case, Zendesk. Zendesk then will say to Nomidio, please authenticate someone. Nomidio will interact with the user directly on their browser to gather voice and face samples, as you've just seen. It will then do the authentication in the cloud, in the secure biometric space within Nomidio. And then the authentication result is then given back to Zendesk saying, this is the person who's trying to log in, and they are authenticated. And then Zendesk can log them in. So that's the process. Most of that is already pre-configured and happens automatically. The bit we're going to be looking at today is the bit of plumbing that needs to be done to basically allow Zendesk to find Nomidio and handle its part of the conversation, and then for Nomidio to be able to find Zendesk to give it the answer after the authentication has been done. So we're going to be setting up this kind of two-way conversation, if you like, and you'll see that as I go through it, that basically I'm in Zendesk pointing it towards Nomidio, and I'm in Nomidio pointing it towards Zendesk. So that, in summary, is what we're going to do. So why don't we dive in and get on with doing that? So first thing we need is some Zendesk. Let's log into Zendesk. So I'm going to log in to my demo version of Zendesk using a traditional username password. Here we go. So I log into here. And those of you not familiar with Zendesk, this is the standard sort of place you end up. Lists of tickets and conversations to resolve and so on. And you'll notice that this is in my specific environment within Zendesk. So this is a Nomidio instance, if you like, of Zendesk that we're using. So what I'm going to do is I'm an administrator in here. So I'm now going to set up this biometric sign-on. So I'm going to go to the security center. Don't need the agent anymore. And identity is a security feature. So go to security settings, and basically I have to do two things. I have to do the plumbing to point Zendesk at Nomidio and vice versa. And then I have to say who can actually use the service. So the first part of that, Zendesk calls single sign-on. So I configure the single sign-on. There's a few bits and pieces in here from previous versions. So this is how it's presented to me. Blank pages. All I'm going to do is enable in this case, SAML. So Zendesk uses security authentication markup language as its method for communicating for this single sign-on. And then you'll see what it wants me to do is just give it basically some information about Nomidio, which is where's Nomidio and how do I talk to it securely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other end and get the details from Nomidio. And in order to do that, I'm going to sign up to the Nomidio service and buy it and run it. So if I go to the marketplace, which is the AWS Marketplace, which is where Nomidio is currently available, so you can buy it today. If you're not familiar with AWS Marketplace, it's a place where you can come and buy a whole load of different services and products to run in AWS. And you'll see that I'm signed in with a particular demo account here that allows me to purchase software and services. So if I go into here and let's search for Nomidio, and there we go, you'll see in the marketplace we have two products. The Identity as a Service, which is the product which is aimed at contact centers and chat environments, and Nomidio OpenID, which is the one we're looking at today. And here we have the product page, gives you all the details of what the product does, exemplifies the pricing, all the pricing structures and how that works. There's also some additional information, a quick start guide, which I'm going to download because that gives me a little bit of a hint that I need to fill some information in. And then in order to buy the service, I just subscribe to it. Takes me to the sort of final page to say, this is what you're about to do. I'm already subscribed to this from another session, so I don't get a subscribe button, but I would get a subscribe button here that would basically sign me up to the service, shows me the pricing I'm signing up to. In this case, I'm going to click through this way. It achieves the same thing in the end. So I'm then taken to the Nomidio registration service. So this is me now registering to use Nomidio. And it already knows who I am, which is convenient. So I'm going to then give it my email address. So I've already set up an administrator in the Nomidio service, so it already has my email address that I'm just going to confirm here. So rather than having to set up an account, as it says here, and confirm my email address and set up a password and enable 2FA on the account, this is already all done. So I'll be able to log in straight away. So if I log in now to Nomidio, I'm now going to be configuring Nomidio to talk to Zendesk. So I'm just going to get the right password for this. Log in, get my 2FA, which is 822235. And here I am in the Nomidio admin center. You see I'm logged in for Bravo Finance. This is our sort of front page dashboard. Shows me various usage of both the IDaaS and the OpenID products for this month and the previous month. And in order to set up a connection, I need to create an application, which I'm going to do now. So I've got some applications already set up for various other things, Salesforce and ServiceNow and a few others, Okta and so on. So I'm going to set one up now for Zendesk. So let's call this Bravo Zendesk. And in there, the plumbing, as it were, is we call a client. So I'm going to create a client. And again, it just guides me through here. I know that I'm using SAML. So I'm going to create that client. And here we are, a bit like we were at Zendesk. There's some attributes about Zendesk that I need to provide, which are pretty simple. I know that we use emails for logins, which happen to be a SOAP thing. And I need to provide the service provider entity ID, which is basically telling Nomidio where can it find Zendesk to talk to. And if I go back to Zendesk, this URL here, which is my Nomidio Zendesk URL, is where you go and talk to. So I just copy that, paste that into, oh no, copy the right thing, sorry. Paste that into there. And then I need this thing called the assertion consumer service URL, which if you were eagle-eyed when we were here in Zendesk, you'll see that it provides the assertion consumer service URL and it enumerates it for me there. And you'll see it's a specific custom one for me at Nomidio. So this is Zendesk saying, talk to me at this address. So I'm going to take that, just paste that in there, and that's it. I don't need to provide a certificate. We generate one automatically. Press submit, and there we are. We've created the client, some details on the certificate, and importantly, the fingerprint, which we'll come back to in a minute. So now I've set up the Nomidio end pointing towards Zendesk. I can go back to Zendesk and say, right, I know how to point you to Nomidio now. You want my SSO, single sign-on URL, which if we go back to this lovely document about the OpenID quick start and go to the SAML configuration, see here we have our public single sign-on URL, which is discoverable publicly from the Nomidio service and also enumerated here in the document. So I just copy that, paste that in, and then I need a certificate fingerprint. So this is basically a kind of a summary, if you like, of a certificate and a communication method so that Zendesk can be certain that when it's talking to Nomidio, it is Nomidio that it's talking to, and that the connection and the communication is all encrypted. So I want to put the fingerprint in there, and luckily Nomidio generates that fingerprint, which is unique to this particular client, but it generates the fingerprint for me, which is like a summation of the certificate and other details. So I can just copy it from there, paste it into here. And then the final thing I'm going to do is put in a remote logout URL, which is basically where do you go when you log out of Zendesk, where do you go, rather than just going to the login page, which gets a bit confusing. We're going to go straight to, in this case, I'm just going to put the Nomidio OpenID homepage in. And that's it. So that's the plumbing done. We've done the Zendesk end, talking to Nomidio. We've done the Nomidio end, talking to Zendesk. So they're both completed. So that's the plumbing done. Now I need to do the kind of access management, if you like, bit, which basically is saying who can use this connection. And from the Nomidio end, we have access policies for that. So I just add an access policy which in this case I've got one prepared, which is Bravo all Zendesk users, basically. And what that constitutes is anybody who has a Nomidio email address is allowed to use this. So it's a bit like saying if you're an employee, this is restricted to employees. I can be much more granular with that and down to individuals and groups and so on. But in this case, I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to set the authentication here. So this says standard or high. So Nomidio provides by default 2 levels of authentication. Standard uses the security keys and a voice sample, and high uses the same but face as well. So face and voice biometrics. So I'm going to say that's what I want from the Nomidio end. So that's Nomidio done. And from the Zendesk end, in terms of who can use the service, well, I get the choice of end users or staff members. Well, I don't want to give it to my customers at this stage. I could do, it would be very easy to do. I'm going to let staff members log in. And in order to do that, I just enable authentication as an external source and say, use the single sign-on and save that. And there we go. I've finished. I've done it. I've just implemented a complete biometric authentication service for Zendesk. And for the cynics among you who might think that isn't actually true, shall we prove it now? If I log out, then I will be taken to the Nomidio landing page as the logout page. There we go. So I'm now logged out of Zendesk. And if I now go and log back in, then it's going to take me to the it's going to take me to the Zendesk login page, and I'm going to go through, and you'll see I'll now do an authentication, which again may be a little bit jumpy on the screen share that I've got, but you'll get the idea. So let's go to the login and see what happens. So there we go. I'm automatically redirected to log in with Nomidio. I press login, and it says we're going to take pictures, so be ready for that. I have to give access to the camera so that browser can do that, and you'll see that I'm presented with an oval. I place my face in the oval and press record, and hopefully you'll see the green screen goes round. A little bit jumpy on the transmit there. And then I allow microphone access, and it asks me to repeat this phrase here. I use my voice to prove my identity. And now it goes up to the cloud, authenticates me, and automatically then transfers me to Zendesk and logs me in. I hope. There we go, yeah. So here I'm logged in, and you can see I'm logged in as Philip Black. So there we go. I've logged into Zendesk. I haven't used a username and password. I don't need to know them anymore. And that is a complete live biometric authentication service. Okay, so that's the point of what we were here to see. Just to emphasize that's a real service that I'm showing you there. It's something that you could go and sign up to yourself today. And at the moment we're available in the AWS Marketplace. Both of the products have free trial. So regardless of how you sign up, you can have a 31-day free trial to try the service. And we're shortly going to be also available in the marketplace for Microsoft Azure. So there we go. That completes the demo, and I hope you found that interesting. And let's open up for any questions, if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Philip. Just to let you know, that was 9 minutes 50 from end to end. So well done. I'm going to stop the recording. Minutes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is really good. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we're going to have some FAQs.